Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. My name is Vineet Malhotra. The British High Commissioner to Pakistan, Jane Marriott, visited Pakistan-occupied Kashmir on the 10th of this month. In a statement about the visit, she said that 70% of the British Pakistanis have their roots in Mirpur. Well, this is extremely interesting because once you do delve into this, is because Pakistan built a dam that submerged some 250 villages in the early 1960s. People from Mirpur were effectively chased from Pakistan in order to make way for this dam. How else would you come to a situation where 70% of Pakistani origin people in the UK can trace their roots back to one specific area in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir? And all of this is taking place while Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is in London discussing a free trade agreement with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Well, should India stop dealing with a country like the United Kingdom who have refused to accept the Indian sovereignty from the word get-go? That's exactly what we're going to discuss in the next half an hour with our panelists. Joining me on the show is Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee, former diplomat. Mr. Pathikrit Pine, the international affairs expert, also joins us on the show. Last but not the least, Professor Madhav Nalapad, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, with us on the program as well. Professor Nalapad, so very interesting to know, and I'm sure the audience is also very interested to know what's going on over here. Is this a deflect delve kind of a situation that the UK is trying to pull off with India? You shake hands when the G20 summit happens in Delhi, but when it comes to real issues, which India is obviously very sensitive and touchy about, you show this kind of an apathy. What is going on over here? And, should India, which we never do, have a knee-jerk reaction to what's going on over here? The ME has already put out a statement that this is something which India takes great offense to. But the part of the problem, sir, and I'm sure you concur, is also the pathology with which a number of these European countries, including the United Kingdom, operate. There could be something on your face and something completely different behind your back. Jacqueline Hyde.
Well, I'd like to say, Vineet, that the fact that you had partition, and very importantly, the fact that there is something called Pakistan-occupied Kashmir is because of the British. You will remember that for some reason, which till now I've not been able to figure out, the first Governor General of Free India was the Viceroy of British India, Lord Louis Mountbatten. The commanders of the military in India, the first commanders, were British, as were the commanders on the other side. Now, obviously, Pakistan is was their creation, and they were very keen that the whole of Kashmir should go to Pakistan. And this British infatuation with Pakistan and this British partiality towards Kashmir becoming a part of Pakistan, on the platform of this absurd two-nation theory, has been going on since 1947. Nothing to be very surprised about. This particular visit, look, frankly, this could not have happened definitely without consent from the Foreign Office in London, and quite possibly the Foreign Secretary, Mr. David Cameron, who understands the sensibilities of India very well. So obviously this has been signed on at that particular level, if not at a higher level. Most likely at David Cameron's level. I don't know if David Cameron knows anything about this, or this particular High Commissioner knows anything about Mirpur beyond spelling it. The fact is, there are very few Kashmiri-speaking people there in that part of Kashmir. As you correctly said, they're no longer there. It's been flooded by people from the neighboring Punjab province. Mirpur is frankly not Kashmiri in any sense of the term, in terms of population. And which is why, should it ever, in the future, frankly, it is very important to understand that, because we don't want a situation in which you have hostile elements in a territory that is once again being reclaimed by India. So the reality of the situation is, look, this is not to cultivate the Mirpuris. This is to cultivate the Punjabi population in Pakistan. Why? Because the Punjabis control the military, and the military controls Pakistan. So this kind of visit is really, manna from the heavens for the Pakistan military establishment. So don't have any illusions about that. This is pandering to the Pakistan military. Now, God knows what secret deals they'll be working out in the Pakistan military. It could involve, for example, handing over some secrets from the Chinese side, as the Pakistanis hand over secrets from the US side to the Chinese. Pakistanis play all sides, including the middle. So this particular gesture, and obviously the reaction of India was not considered sufficiently, in a sense, enough to stop this gesture towards the Pakistan military by going to a part of India which is in the control of a country that's plainly hostile to India, where its army is concerned. This is a slap in the face of India, and a deliberate slap in the face. And if I may say so, I had some expectations from David Cameron that he would have an understanding of India. I'm disappointed to say that the years out of power seem to have changed Cameron's mind. And today he is functioning, in a sense, he has been completely house trained, which basically means he's been a puppet of the Foreign Office establishment, the very establishment that was so influential in creating Pakistan and in ensuring through its proxies in India that were placed in high positions after independence for some reason, that Kashmir, a part of Kashmir at least, remained with Pakistan.
Ambassador Mukherjee, do you think that the former Prime Minister of a country like UK has failed to understand what this sensitive situation entails? You can't expect anything better from other diplomats and leaders from this country to recognize the sovereignty that India has been trying to portray to the world in the most moralistic manner as it could.
Well, Vineet, let me try to put this matter in a historical, holistic perspective. When the British decided to partition India and to create a permanent thorn in India's side, the thorn called Pakistan, the bifurcation of the Union of India into India and Pakistan was done through an act of the British Parliament, which recognized the sovereignty of India and the newly created Pakistan. That did not include PoK. So my first legal problem is that if the British High Commissioner to Pakistan visits PoK, she is legalizing an illegal act which was recognized by the very British Parliament which created India, bifurcated it, and created Pakistan. That's my first point. My second point is, we are talking about Cameroon and whether or not he is friendly to India. But Vineet, let us not forget that the actual Prime Minister of the United Kingdom is a man of Indian origin who should know better. He's appointed Cameroon. He should know how to pull in the guys who call the shots, the so-called shots in the British establishment, the old Etonians, the snobs who don't understand that Britain is no longer a great power. It's a small, middle-level power floating on the River Thames. The Indian origin Prime Minister of the United Kingdom should call his foreign minister into order. And I completely agree that at a time when our Raksha Mantri is currently in the UK and we are looking at an FTA, this is a slap in the face of India. And this is an indication that United Kingdom doesn't realize a few things. Number one, that regardless of whether it is in the P5 or not, it is a mediocre middle-level power. Number two, we have higher GDP and much greater future than the United Kingdom. Number three, Indians control a huge amount of assets in London and in UK. We have got so many British Indian companies bringing money to the UK. We have FDI flows going from India to UK. So they should better do what is EM's favorite phrase, which is get up, wake up and smell the coffee. This is no way to behave with India. And in my perspective, because they've done this, we should hold up the FTA for another 1 year because they desperately need the FTA. We are in no position to make concessions just before an election year. In any case, it gives us a great excuse to hold up the FTA. The FTA is of great benefit to the UK, whose economy is paltry, we make that an excuse to hold it up. And that's how it is. And we should definitely call in the British High Commissioner here and explain that we are not amused. And let me tell you another thing, Vineet, that in the good old days, when good old Nawaz Sharif was Prime Minister, every year they used to organize a visit of all Western ambassadors to PoK, including European Union ambassadors. I see some Indians here rejoicing that Nawaz Sharif could become Prime Minister. I would invite them also to wake up and smell the coffee. Nawaz Sharif was always a puppet. Sometimes he fell out with his puppet masters, then he was sent into exile in Saudi Arabia. But please don't expect anything better from Nawaz Sharif either. And please understand that this deliberate act of provocation by the British High Commissioner Vineet will be followed by a visit, orchestrated visit by several Western ambassadors. France never goes. There are some EU countries that never go, but there are some others, notably the Nordics, who always go. And definitely there will be such a visit when the weather becomes a bit better in PoK. They will be taken there. And as far as the Mir Puris are concerned, it seems that this British High Commissioner does not know any history of India, Pakistan, how PoK was created and what happened. The Mir Puris, in fact, who are in London at the moment, they are responsible for trying to hijack the British foreign policy from a realistic, pragmatic assessment of how much India matters to the UK into a kind of sectarian approach based on their Mir Puri origin. That used to be the problem, I remember, in Jack Straw's constituency when I was in South Block. That has been a huge problem for many members of parliament who have Mir Puris trying to manipulate them. She is, as High Commissioner of UK to Pakistan, acknowledging this connection. I think that was the most undiplomatic statement for her to have made. Beneath.
Pathakrit, do you concur with what Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee had to say, that UK being, a mediocre power now with, little regard or understanding of what really happened with India because of the United Kingdom, is straying down a path which eventually will lead to more misunderstandings unless and until the sensitivity, of these relationships and of course India's concern about PoK and Mirpur is recognized and appreciated.
Yeah, Vineet, to add to what ma'am said, this is kind of, if you look at from the British perspective, it is kind of a strategic ambiguity they claim to continue with. And this is not, see, the British concept of hunting with the hound and running with the hare policy is not something new. I just want to go back to what happened in 1945 when the exodus started from Germany, during the Second World War. A large number of them wanted to come to Palestine. They were all put up in Cyprus by the British. And at the same time, they were taking help of Haganah, which was the militia of the Jews based in Palestine, to fight against the Germans. They were taking their help. But they put up all the Jews trying to come from Europe into Palestine in a concentration camp-like situation in Cyprus, because they wanted to keep the Arab lobby happy because of the discovery of oil. So this is not a new thing which the British are doing. This is the part of the deep state strategic ambiguity. And I think Rishi Sunak is not oblivion to it. He exactly knows what he is doing. We should not expect anything else from them. I must also add that the radicalization of the Muslim community in United Kingdom is primarily because of the Mir Puris. And United Kingdom has not done anything to normalize or mainstream them. They allow that radicalization to be very, very profound. In middle of 2022, there was a directed attack on Hindus, rather. I would not even call at the Indians, but they were directly targeting Hindus in Leicester, which was primarily done by one particular community and mostly with the Mir Puris. So the British, let me put it this way, when it comes to, see, the mindset still continues to be the one of the Machiavellian era. So they want, what they want is this, that on issues of economy, they want to deepen in relation with India. So they will talk about defense cooperation, they'll talk about engines, they'll talk about FTA. But when it comes to strategic aspect, they still believe that Pakistan has a lot of relevance for them. So they try to play these double games and deliberately. It's kind of a provocation, but if we have seen the way the Modi government works, it does not react instantly. But in say installments, you will find reciprocation happening from the government also, and as has been rightly mentioned, I think the FTA is going for a toss because we have very little to gain from the FTA. The British have a lot more to gain from the FTA. So I don't know where the British strategy today lies in. Is it to do bidding for America or to do bidding for China or to do somewhere in between, bidding for itself or trying to bid for anyone who gives them a higher share? We simply don't know because the problem with the British is mentally they still believe that they have the colonial rights on South Asia. Even though economically, strategically, militarily, they have withered down quite a bit, but because they're coming down, they'll play these games even more. And just my last point, Vineet, let's not presume that they will stop at PoK only. The regime change games that we see that is being played from Europe and the West, UK also has a lot of role to play in that. The Khalistan issue we have seen, the attack on the Indian embassy, they haven't done anything much. It's the NIA which came out with an entire document to tell them what was happening and who are the people present in United Kingdom who were targeting the Indians. So I'm not surprised by what the British have done. It only shows that deep beneath the skin, the British psyche has absolutely not changed, and they still continue to be what it was 100 years back, not even 50 years. So I don't think we need to calibrate our policies. Our policies are very profound, and you would see reactions, I'm sure it would be coming in the next few days or maybe in few months.
Right. Professor Nalapat, Pathikrit makes a very compelling and incisive point that, for a foreign policy to survive between these two countries and the FTA also to have some sort of a semblance, the British cannot pick and choose. If they want to cooperate in terms of our economy and the growth, they also have to respect other regions and other areas that matter to India, including PoK.
Look, Vineet, I quite agree with Pathikrit that this is a very, very significant point of view. It's a question of territory and sovereignty of territory. Now, you have, unfortunately, if you check back, David Cameron is well known for his financial linkages with entities and individuals connected to a certain country called the People's Republic of China. Now, I mean, he was the prime minister. Obviously, whether it's Boris Johnson or David Cameron or others, they would like to live well. Their families would like to live well. And unfortunately, the reality is that the Chinese have got a very long reach into the elites. And through one means or the other, they co-opt the elites. Cameron has been known in Britain to be very closely linked financially with entities that are themselves closely linked with China. Now, obviously, when this is concerned, Pakistan is a satellite state of China, and the intention of making them a satellite state is to try and create problems for India when it is inevitably rising under Prime Minister Narendra Modi. After 2014, for example, once it became clear by around 2016 that to the end of 2015 that Prime Minister Modi was in an entirely different mold. He was not going to allow the past situation to continue. He would adopt a line which would basically make use of the potential of India and have confidence in the Indian people. A lot of attacks started. Now, I mean, frankly, as far as the defense relationship is concerned, well, I'm not sure what Britain has got to offer India. Because frankly, the British are a second-class defense production power. The first class belongs to two countries. One is the United States, the other is Russia. And as far as Russia is concerned, as I pointed out multiple times, the problem is its forced linkage with China. The British are a second-rate defense power. and they really don't have much to offer except that they would like to have India as a platform, basically for assembly of parts, not for sharing technology, not for basically building aircraft, but assembling aircraft. And I think Prime Minister Modi is very clear. Sorry, you're not going to use India as an assembly line. Just as he has been very clear, you're going to go for digital India. India is not going to be used as a body shop for basically, low-end IT work. We're going to go higher and higher up the IT chain. So yes, I do honestly believe that where that FTA is concerned, we have to really negotiate in a very clear way and not have any belief that any concession by us will basically ensure that British policy towards India has changed. As the ambassador and particularly have correctly said, that policy is rooted in the past era. And in the past era, first it was a partition, and then, of course, before that, it was the delinking of several locations which were once part of British India. And then came this question of trying to, the whole of Kashmir to go to Pakistan, and if not, at least a part of Kashmir. And the commander of the Indian Army at that point in time played a very key role in that. The Governor General of India at that point in time played a very key role in that. I'm quite surprised that, this is not properly mentioned in Indian history books. And I think it underlines the point made by this government that our history, as taught to us, is a kind of history that is taught to people that is designed to disregard and despise their own culture, their own potential, their own history. And I think that also needs to change. I'm not surprised by this. Yes, I agree. There needs to be a blowback, and it has to be at a time, place, and method of the choosing of India.
Absolutely, sir. Concluding thoughts from Ambassador Mukherjee and Pathakrit, and then we wrap up. Ambassador Mukherjee.
I fully agree with Professor Nalapat. Vineet, it was Hegel who said that if you don't remember your own history, history can repeat itself. So it's time we remembered our history. It's time for the Brits to remember their history and to understand that the champion of divide and rule and partition, that has come right back to the United Kingdom with Brexit. And now, in a situation where they are cut off because of Brexit, they desperately need the FTA. This is the right time. I quite agree that this government believes in the policy that revenge is a dish best served and cooked cold. So do we in the Foreign Service. We have exactly the same philosophy. We will make our displeasure clear now, and we will take the correct measures later. But Vineet, this is not something to be forgotten. It is a deliberate provocation when Raksha Mantri is in UK. This is not something we can just ignore and forget as a routine visit, that every British High Commissioner in Pakistan does it, etc., etc. The timing was all wrong. Her tweet was terrible. I've read the tweet which she's made. And if she thinks that she's serving her country's national interest by writing all this, well, I'm sorry, I cannot agree with her. And I am sure that the Brits are going to pay a huge price for this extremely, as we say in French, maladroit step, completely out of step with Britain's national interest. Vineet.
Well said, ma'am. Pathakrit? You're
Indians
muted. Yeah, go on. I can hear you now. Go on.
Three quick things. The only thing that the Indians were interested in the recent past from UK, so far as defense is concerned, is the Rolls-Royce engine for the fighter aircraft. But I think both the British and the American policy is pushing the Indians more towards the French. And I think that will be the eventual conclusion. Second point is, I think the British policy is not different from the rest of the Western policy, that they want India to grow, but at the same time, they want to contain India because they don't want India to become the next China. That is their psyche. The Indian policy is very clear. If you want to have business with me, you have to respect my territorial sovereignty. If you do not do that, then don't expect business beyond a point. So I think, as ma'am also mentioned and sir also mentioned, that eventually you will see reciprocation in a calibrated manner happening, which would hit the prospect of the incumbent Prime Minister and the government of UK even more than what they can anticipate. As I stated, the policy of British have not changed in the last 100 years.
Absolutely. Maybe 100 plus years. Well, appreciate everyone joining us and giving their thoughts on this important subject.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.